The Knights of Guinevere trailer has finally been released. And I think I've discovered what the main story of the entire show is going to be. I've analyzed tons of other shows and game trailers frame by frame before, but I think I have something very interesting about this that no one else has actually talked about yet. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a bucket of popcorn to snack along at home, and let's get into this. The trailer opens with this glitch logo on this background that I tried my best to recreate. Then, of course, we get the show's main title, which is actually in a custom font, which I guess is to be expected, but it's most similar to Restaurant JNL. The screen goes dark for a few frames before we're treated to all of these wonderfully animated shots of a theme park of some sort centered around Guinevere. They're not trying to be particularly subtle with the Disney connections, which makes sense after Dana Terrance's last work.
There was a princess, trapped in a tall, tall tower.
This here is an incredibly important shot. It shows us two hands holding together with the Guinevere robot walking in the background. Now, identifying these two hands is actually easier than you might think. The one on the left is completely a total match for the guy who owns the park, Mr. Orville Park. In theory, he's the one who made Guinevere. I also assume that this room here is a child's room of some kind. The
tall, tall tower.
Leading me to believe this is some sort of FNAF situation where Mr. Orville Park over here made this robot for his daughter. Now, we're gonna get to that later, so stick with me.
And locked away by complicated machines that ran on blood and fear.
Now in this shot, we see somebody being taken care of in the same room as before in this bed of some kind. They're clearly sick, whoever they are, as they're being taken care of by a helper robot. Now at first I thought that this must be the kid because of the size and dimensions and location of the bed, but at this point I was curious if this was actually his daughter, only to be completely validated in this theory by the casting announcement, which I actually hadn't seen up until this point, so thank God it lined up with my theory. So finally, it's all lining up. Olivia Park, when she was a kid, died in this hospital bed to some sort of random sickness, which spurred her father on to turn Guinevere into a theme park attraction. Except for this. Someone is cast as Olivia Park old, meaning she can't die in this hospital bed. The only other candidate then is Guinevere herself. And these biohazard bins actually implied that this might not be her dying, but being born. See, there's this thing called the blue lung that was revealed and I talked about in an older video. You should go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's pretty interesting. But the long and short of it is that something in the Guinevere's is blue and it causes a blue lung disease. We get a ton of shots of this, which doesn't make any sense, but I think I've got enough to figure out most of the story from here. However, this was all just a prequel, a flashback, because this is the main story. People definitely don't seem to like Guinevere in this timeline based on all the graffiti we've been seeing and other things like that. I think it's because of this disease. See, if you go on the Park Planet website that was released by Glitch as part of the show's promotion, you can do a ton of interesting things. You can actually go over here and see the rules you're supposed to follow in the theme park. One of them is not to hug any of the mascot animatronics because they damage genomes. Sound familiar? And also, you can take this cool test to see which Guinevere you are. I'm Ballerina Guinevere. There's also footage of these weird genetic lab things that's shown in the trailer. I can only imagine that this is for Park Planet working on these bio machines that end up being the Guineveres. This frame here is also very, very important. We see Olivia abusing one of the Guineveres. Okay, ignore that scene, that's not important. The important part is that we see that Olivia might not actually like the Guineveres that much, as we previously assumed. We also see this shot of a guy smoking a cigarette with blue on it, which might be another contributor to blue lung. Who knows? We see some more shots of this broken Guinevere, who I think is going to be the main Guinevere that we follow throughout the series. You see, Guinevere definitely isn't very respected by the main characters, but there is a special and unique version of Guinevere, the original. We see what seems to be references to all the creatures that Guinevere was with in the teaser trailer before this shot. This next shot is arguably the most important in the whole trailer.
Oh, why hello. Didn't notice you there. Come closer. Meet some very good friends of mine.
So the most obvious place to look for lore here is in these shots. We see all these pictures of Guinevere that slowly shift into the dark underside of what Guinevere actually is. Now, these are very interesting, but there's actually not a lot to be gleaned from them. Instead, this logo and the message "Wake Up" glitching at the end are also very important. I think I've developed clinical insanity from how much I've looked at this trailer, but here's what I've basically got so far. So there's this guy, Orville Parks, right? He's something of a scientist himself, so he decides to make a robot. This robot is the original Guinevere. He decides to gift this robot to his daughter Olivia, who doesn't seem to care for the robot very much. Now, at some point, something special happens to the robot. My guess is some sort of advanced AI or something like that. Something that makes it dangerous, so they have to throw it into the giant pit. But they decide to use a controllable version of this AI for malicious purposes, or at least corporate malicious purposes. They make a new Guinevere robot who isn't actually intelligent by herself, but is sort of just a corporate puppet mascot. Next up, our two main characters are born, and obviously they don't like Orville, or I guess maybe Orville's dead by this point. I'm not entirely sure, so they couldn't dislike Olivia. So they want to go find that original broken Guinevere to find the dirt or the proof that they made some sort of weird AI thing. But that's just my theory. So here's the evidence for it. It all comes down to one thing. Lipstick. I'm not joking. See, in these frames here, we can see one of the Guineveres falling into the pit. This is the one I was talking about earlier. A Guinevere is pictured almost exclusively with lipstick on, except for the original Guinevere that we saw that Olivia had. This one also doesn't have lipstick. Also, this intestine ripping scene is a pretty telltale sign. This is also the only Guinevere that doesn't have an outfit.
Flashing?
Basically, these all line up to being the original Guinevere that I theorize got tossed into this pit because it was too intelligent or had too much self-awareness, given to us by these expressive shots that seem to imply that it's human to a degree. There's also this shot here that implies that Olivia is the new head of the company. Yes, look at those horns, that's definitely Olivia. Now, the official synopsis is as follows. In a global sky park, two dreamers pin their hopes on a damaged princess android, their possible salvation or doom. A psychological thriller between the clouds and lurking in the shadows below. Now, these two people here are our main characters, proven by concept art that they were featured in and because of the synopsis. Now, Orville and the Guineveres are clearly the evil corporation in this series, so it's easy to see where the doom in this synopsis comes from. However, the question is, where does the salvation come from? These two characters definitely seem to hate Guinevere, which I think is justified given everything we've seen about her in this trailer, but this one is going to be their salvation. I think it's a way of taking down the park. There's something about this Guinevere that they need to figure out because it has enough evidence to take down the park. This is why I think it's an advanced AI of some kind. Keep in mind, I'm wrong about pretty much everything I ever talk about, so basically just take that as a grain of salt. And put that salt in the popcorn from the beginning of the video. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, then suck it. Until next time, Ralsei is Flowey, Guinevere's an advanced AI, and this has been Tater Animations trying to do a YouTube video. End card time. Ugh. This is the, sorry, I just realized that grunting sound sounds weird for anyone who hasn't listened to an end card before. I record underneath my blanket so it doesn't echo as much, but it's really hot under there. This is actually the first video I've had to, record the audio for. This is the first video I've had to record the audio for in, so many separate chunks, at separate times. I've never had that before, because I normally can just record it after, because the scripting and animating is the hardest part. If I could that's why I have to do live action videos sometimes, because I can just sit there, say the thing, and boom, it's done. But these make it a little harder. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the video and for watching this much of the end card, which is just me babbling on and on and on and on. Actually, I'm surprised by how many people watch these end cards. I kind of want to make them higher quality because otherwise I'm just wasting your time. The point is, big things are coming. I'm doing a Silk Song video next, then maybe a Minecraft one. And after that, who knows? You guys get to vote. But, actually vote for what you want, because you guys constantly vote for stuff and then don't watch it. No, I'm not trying to blame you. I'm just very confused by that phenomenon. Anyways, the most important thing to remember is that if the government tracks you down for not paying your taxes, all you gotta do to get out of it is